We have a subject I'm really excited about. We do yearly GTM trends reports on gtmmag.com. And Doug, you contributed many times. You need no introduction, but for all of you watching, Doug Landis is the CEO of DLA, X Emergence Capital, and Box. Welcome, Doug.
Yo, what's happening? It's good to be here. And yes, I have lots of opinions if you know me, and I like to share them. But the good news is this conversation with this incredible panel is not going to be driven by me and my opinions, although I will chime in with questions and commentary as I do. But my goal is to pull from all of these incredible individuals, Ben, Marley, Manisha, Rohan, Omer. You're in the heart of building amazing companies right now, and kind of at a broad spectrum. And what I really want to understand is what we're thinking about in terms of go to market for next year. I do also want to highlight the fact that I don't want to just talk about AI. While I know AI is going to play a role, there is going to be an element of like, okay, where are we going to focus on AI first, and where are we going to leverage the existing investments that we already have? Because guess what? Your CFO is like, no more tech, because you haven't proven that the tech that you've bought has actually had an impact. So I really want to hone in on that. But before I'll shut up now. But Julia, as we go through introductions, one thing I would love to hear from everybody is kind of a prediction for go to market in 2025.
Cool. It would be really great to rewatch this next year. Another session.
Right?
Marilee, let's start with you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Marilee Bear. I'm the CRO of Gainsight. It's good to be here today. So my prediction is we're going to continue to see a consolidation of tools. There are so many tools out there today, mainly driven by AI. And I believe that we are going to start to see those come together, take more of a platform approach as there's natural consolidation. And then it will all be rounded out with a much more consultative approach. I'm seeing a lot of shiny object syndrome out there today with really cool tools, but not a lot of like thoughtful thoughtfulness when it comes to like, how do I actually embed this into my workflow? And so I think our GTM teams are going to have to be much more consultative.
Awesome. Doug, it's your stage. Let's roll.
Oh, all right, cool. Awesome. I don't know if you were going to go through everybody before I had a chance to. So, all right, Ben, talk to me. What background, who are you, and give us your prediction for 2025.
Great. Thanks for having me. So I'm Ben Samuels. I am current CRO at a company called OneMind, where we create digital superhumans that have the face, voice, and brain of some of your best sellers and GTM reps, which we can talk about in a little more detail. Up until recently, I was CRO at WeWork. I was there for about 7.5 years through hypergrowth all the way to restructuring. And then when I met Amanda Kalo, who was the founder of Sixth Sense, she had this new cool product called OneMind. I recognized it straight away as someone who ran a pretty complex, large sales organization of about 600 people. This was the first time I'd seen AI that I could actually implement and might drive change. So I jumped to join Amanda and try to scale up this really cool company. And I think what I think will happen in 25 is that different parts of the actual sales organization and sellers are going to be much more disrupted by AI than I think most people are anticipating, especially at the more entry level jobs and the less value added jobs. But by the same token, those who are really good are going to be supercharged through tools at AI. I think those who are good are going to be great, and you're going to end up losing a lot of mediocre talent along the way, which will be a benefit.
Sounds like we need some tools to actually help up level those people that are mediocre. What's happening, Ben? Good to see you. Manisha, how are you? Welcome to the show.
Hey, I'm good. Thank you for having me. So I'm Manisha, CEO and founder of SwiftHub. We are changing the way technical sales is done today. I mean, I think all of us always wish we have the best sales engineer on every call, and it's practically impossible. But now you can have your best sales engineer on every call with SwiftHub. One prediction for 2025, I think it's a blessing and curse because of AI. There are too many emails going on, too many LinkedIn connects going on. So instead of B2B selling, we will see more P2P selling, which is person to person selling, because ultimately, there are people on both the side, buyers and sellers, and buyers would want to buy more from personalized brand, I would say. So I think that's going to become very, very important. And that's how we'll see the way of selling will change a lot.
Interesting. So you think personalization is no longer going to be at scale, but it's actually going to be real. How many people right now, when you get a LinkedIn post or a comment, you look at it, you're like, and your radar goes off. You're like, that kind of feels like it was a chat bot that wrote that, or the emails that we get in our inbox all day long. Rohan, what's happening? Congrats on the recent funding. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm Rohan. I'm one of the founders at Nooks. For those that don't know, Nooks we're a Series B company. We build AI sales assistants for pipeline gen for B2B sales teams. We kind of focus on like calling, emailing, and list building is kind of our focus areas. In terms of prediction for 2025, I would say in general, AI is going to make email and LinkedIn a lot harder to stand out on because as AI gets better and better, the cost of doing outreach on those channels decreases. And there's going to be a resurgence on one, leveraging first-party data, so information from webinars, marketing events, and two, there's going to be a resurgence on like using the phone as a channel to gather insight, gather intel, and actually make like really targeted plays on your prospects. So resurgence on the phones as well as other channels being crowded out.
All right. Interesting. I just noticed that I feel like everybody here is a part of an AI first sales technology company. It's just really fascinating because I'm going to challenge you all to take your AI first hat off, except for Marilee, of course. The two of us were like old school here. But I'm going to ask everybody to like take their hats off from an AI perspective every now and again in this conversation. But we're not done yet because we have one more person. Omer, great to see you again. Welcome to the show.
Great to see you, Doug, and thank you for inviting me. Happy to be here. Omer Gottlieb, I previously co-founded Tutango and fearlessly competed with Marilee's colleague at Gainsight for about 12 years. I ran most of our go-to-market functions over there. Really enjoyed it. We sold the company to a private equity about 3 years ago. I retired, and then a year ago, actually got bored and started a new startup. Which is SalesPeak. And SalesPeak is it's actually mainly for you. Think of all of you. You are sellers, but also buyers. SalesPeak is here to really redefine the buying experience. I think the B2B buying experience is broken, and we're here to actually fix it. And that's one of my prediction. I'm hoping it's going to be 2025. Don't take me up on it. Maybe it will be longer. There's going to be a lot of junk. Really a lot of junk and garbage, a lot of AI tools that are really shiny, but we're not going to see results. I think companies that are going to focus maybe less on making your sales team efficient and much more about making your customer successful. Gainsight is a customer success company. It's about customer success. How do we make our customer successful with AI or without AI, as you said? I think that's going to be the winning companies of the next batch.
Yep. That's the goal, to make all of our customers more successful. Interestingly enough, as I think about 2025, the thing that always jumps out at me virtually every year is the reality of the silos that continue to exist between sales, marketing, and customer success teams. Whether that's a lack of knowledge sharing, handoff processes with customers. I'm going through I decide to buy a product and I get handed off to customer success. I have to start all over again with my relationships. I think one of the things hopefully we'll see in 2025 is more sharing of context and insights so that go-to-market teams can be much more in sync with one another and actually be able to collaborate better. That's my goal. I hope we see that. I hope we see that. Technology can certainly help, but it kind of leads me into the first question that I want to throw out to everybody, which is like, what do you all see are some of the biggest problems that need to be solved for in 2025 from a go-to-market perspective? What's a major shift that you're seeing? You're like, oh wow, this is going to be a real challenge for for companies going forward, especially in the world of go to market? What do y'all think? Marilee, I want to start. I want to start with Marilee. The only reason why I'm going to pick on her for a second is because you're in a big company, and so many, everybody here is a lot of smaller companies. I want to kind of start with a big company because everyone's going to try and sell to you. So this just set the stage for everybody. Pay attention what she says, because everything that all y'all are building in these little startups need to address her. So we're going to start with her.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest standout is just being really clear in your messaging and knowing who your audience is. And those are super basic. This is not groundbreaking, but sometimes there's so much that you can get just from going straight back to basics. But I get a lot of reach outs every day, and it's so surprising to me, like where it's like some of these messages are so off center and just nothing to do with what I'm concerned about right now. I think for every SaaS leader right now, we're grappling with, our gross retention rate and our overall bookings. And so like, those are the two things, if you want to say, keep me up at night. And I think that's, if your messaging is something around there, if you have a tool that can help make life easier, then I'm interested. If it's, something to do with like, you have a list of, CIOs in the manufacturing space, probably not something that I'm super interested in right now.
Sorry to laugh, but it's just the shit that we get. Excuse my French. The stuff we get inbound. You're like, what? Did you do any homework whatsoever? All right. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. So I agree. I mean, look, and it's interesting, guys. I've listened to some of the panels earlier, and messaging, positioning, getting the right narrative down is such a fundamental element. And to be honest, I agree. I think it's so important right now because there's so much noise out there. Like, to be honest, being able to parse all of you right now on the panel outside of Marilee as to like what you all do and how that could matter to her, I think is just a really interesting exercise. So, what else?
But I have some bad news for you, and maybe for Marilee. It's going to get worse. It is going to get worse because right now, the cost of sending an email to Marilee has gone down dramatically. Before that, people were actually have to invest a lot of time and resource and effort to get to her and craft a good email. Now there's going to be 50 and 500 and 5,000. So you need to do something a bit different, because otherwise, again, she needs it. She has an important KPIs to actually get to it, but those things are not going to get to her. So I think, it is rising above the noise. But what we need to remember that the game tomorrow is completely different than what it was today.
Doug, if I come back to maybe something you said right in the beginning about alignment between marketing, sales, customer success. So I would say the biggest change that I saw in revenue and the design of our org at WeWork was when actually we rolled marketing and RevOps and customer success all into my org, the CRO org. It changed everything. For years, we just spent all our time fighting around for attribution, budget. Marketing says, well, that I generated that lead, and then someone else says, well, no, I had that relationship. And you spend all this really ridiculous amount of time trying to fight for attribution relevance. And the moment we said to marketing, okay, you're going to own part of the budget on the consumer side of the business, right? Here's your goal. I'm dividing up quota. You own this much quota. And by the way, we're all in this together. And if you're not going to hit quota, we'll figure out a solution. It changed everything.
Love that.
And we then were much more diligent and thoughtful about how we spent. We would all agree on how we measured success because we realized that just spending to generate more shitty leads, you started, you really had a terrible declining ROI. And why would you spend that incremental dollar when we could do something else with it? Because their goal was wrong. Their goal was MQLs, regardless of quality. So once that all got aligned, it changed everything, and the dialogue changed. Our performance improved. And then my last challenge was, okay, great, we have the right leads, spending the right amount of money. How do we drive conversion? And that's when I thought really about AI. How can we take what is already landing and just do a better job of qualifying, closing, shortening sales cycle? And that was really my objective, in the second half, once we got the org alignment, I think a lot better, personally.
What's interesting, Ben, is I'm a big believer in this whole integration of sales, marketing, and customer success. But a problem might evolve from this, which is like our incentive structure then likely needs to change. if they need to get more consolidated, if they need to get more integrated, if they need to get more aligned, then it begs the question, like, well, then how do we think about incentives? And Manisha, it kind of makes me think, you said, like, what if we all had an SE in our pocket? That's amazing. With technology like what you have all built, how does that change the role of an SE in an organization, or even a compensation structure for an SE, if we can use technology like yours to actually, make our whole process better and easier for the customer?
So if you see today, the SE to AE ratio is really 1:3 in almost every org. Unless you're selling to very large enterprises, then you will have 1:1 ratio for SEs to AEs, right? So 3 AEs basically get one shared SE, and they keep on fighting for the time of SEs. And because they are subject matter experts, right? Now, even when this deal is being closed, that's when the SE is involved. When the deal is closed and then it is handed over to customer success, for a longest of the time, SE is still involved. You can't give the entire implementation to a delivery team or implementation team, because there is so much subject matter expertise that solutions team has. And for deals which go on for 6 months to 12 months, there's a lot of context. So today what happens is, this knowledge is spread across multiple tools, right? I mean, as we were discussing consolidation of tools, because there are so many tools. And honestly, I think in next at least few years, we are not going to see a lot of consolidation of the tools, because there are such amazing products which are coming up, which are doing just those 5 things so well that you don't want to compromise bringing in a legacy player or using features of those incumbents and compromise on productivity or compromise on how best you can actually do a particular task. So consolidation is definitely needed, but it's not happening, I think, anytime soon. And if consolidation is not happening, what Gainsight did, right? Gainsight basically bought all the data into one place, which is required by customer success team to make the customer successful. Now, a lot of companies have solved for data. You see ThoughtSpot, Gainsight, a lot of companies have solved for data, but not many companies have solved for knowledge and context. Once you solve for knowledge and context, then you're empowering your sellers to, being able to answer any question immediately from the customer, instead of saying, I'll get back to you. I'll get back to you delays your sales cycle.
Yeah. No, I mean, knowledge and context, I think, is even harder right now, given how much information exists out there. Rohan, I'm curious, given your focus on on sellers, and especially kind of earlier in the process, and also given the fact that you're a younger company, how do you foresee 2025 in terms of like a big problem that exists, whether you're going to solve it or not, or whether you can help to solve it or not? I mean, I feel like we're hearing a couple things: consistency, knowledge, context, messaging, noise, y'all, and Nooks. I mean, you kind of sit right in the middle of all that.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think for Nooks as a company, if we look at our 2025 goals and what are our big risks, most of them honestly come from there's a little bit of product execution risk, but most of it comes from just pipeline. Can we scale the pipeline to hit our revenue goals that we want to hit? And so that's a big thing that I think it's probably a big focus for most revenue teams. Healthy pipeline solves most problems. So I think that's one thing I think of. I do think in general AI that not just drives efficiency, but actually can actually generate more overall pipeline for an org is going to be more valuable than just driving efficiencies. So doing it with less dollars. But I think that's one of the big challenges that I think most orgs are going to face over the next year, is how do they keep up with those growth rates? Yeah.
It reminds me of the day when marketing automation first came out, right? Marketing automation came out, everyone's like, well, now look at all this pipeline we have now. Now we have to sift through it and make sure what's real is actually real and get rid of all the noise. It's interesting. I think one of the things that is going to be a problem that needs to be solved for in 2025, I'm going to throw this out there, is pricing. I think pricing is going to it has to be reevaluated, because the reality is, I, as a buyer, and I'm curious to all your thoughts because you're all buyers, I'm curious, how do you feel about this? I don't want to buy licenses anymore. I don't want to buy licenses for my whole organization. I kind of want to buy outcomes, right? Versus actual licenses. So I think pricing is going to have to be something that we're all going to evaluate. Maybe it's something that you all are thinking about from the standpoint of like, how do we actually get more utilization, more adoption of our products, but without actually making pricing as a license per user license a real barrier.
I want to take that, and you said, Doug, that as a buyer, I don't want to buy licenses. I'll even take it further. As a founder, I don't want to sell licenses. I just had we're working on a building right now, and my team asked me, why don't you have an annual plan? And I don't want to have annual plans. Actually, I want to sell results. I want to sell outcomes. I want to sell work. And I think this is where some of the solutions are going to, not all of them. I can definitely tell you that in terms of the buyers, it's much, much easier to make a decision. And, if it's working, we're going to pay for it and going to pay for it a lot. And if it's not, there's a lot of risk. Again, as a founder, ARR, how do you report? There's many, many, many other risks there. But if I'm going to put upfront, my lighthouse is how do we solve for the customer? I'm betting for that price. I don't think it's a good solution for any company, but for specific type of companies, I'm all in favor of it as a buyer and as a seller.
Juliet, thank you so much for putting this up, because I know when this was posted, who was it? Kyle, I think Kyle Poyer posted this. I love Kyle. He's so freaking smart. But I just think creativity in terms of like addressing where our customers are and what they actually need is we're gonna have to get a little bit more creative, kind of going forward. So I'm interested in your thoughts now. Let's kind of shift gears just a little bit in terms of the problems that y'all just identified, whether that's context of knowledge, where and when you need it, or that's consolidation. Hopefully that happens. Merely, we're fingers crossed, because it's too much. Where does technology play a role in helping to solve for some of these problems? I think ideally we're looking for technology to help us consolidate. It's hard to do because we don't know which one to actually invest in as a particular product. But like, where does technology fit? And this is kind of a two-part question. And do you think people are going to be more comfortable in 2025 looking at AI first technology to help them solve a problem, or how do I, or are they going to be going, how do I leverage what I currently have and maybe do some AI augmentation? That was just a big, ugly question. Sorry. I get fired myself for my hosting job. Who wants to start with that? Where does technology play, and is it AI first technology, or can we leverage what we already have, because there's already so much out there?
Yeah. I think AI first technologies, of course, as a founder, I always believe that AI first technologies are changing the way, are disrupting it. So let's say if an incumbent or a legacy player can bring in 30% productivity improvement in a particular task, an AI first company we have seen, they are bringing 60-70% productivity improvement, right? It could be efficacy and productivity both. What is important here is, and how technology is helping us is, rather than bringing, a workflow into AI, like have an AI application and then you have this chat GPT kind of interface. It works for consumers, but it always doesn't work for businesses, because businesses today are anyways using so many tools. On an average, any company uses 100 tools, right? 100 SaaS applications. Yeah. So it's very important to bring AI in your workflows instead of bringing workflows to AI. And if a salesperson or even a customer success person, they don't have to go to one more tool to actually solve a problem or do a task faster, they'll be okay to do it, even if it's a new tool. It has to just seamlessly fit into the current ecosystem today.
It's interesting, Ben. I'm curious. As founder, co-founder, CRO leader, you're constantly getting hit up. The question I have for you is, do you constantly ask yourself, what is this replacing? Because if you already have so much, right? Yep. And you're trying to figure out, like, okay, how do we consolidate? Is the first question you're going to ask is like, what does this replace? Or what questions are you going to actually ask when you're thinking about whether or not technology is the way to solve for the problem?
Yeah. So the first thing I want to understand is, what's the ROI? So what's the value prop? What does it do? It's great. What kind of incremental returns am I going to generate? And if I can prove out that so that's number one, is what is the ROI in theory? Number two is, what is the hassle around integration, right? Is it like I've got to rip out Salesforce to put in HubSpot? I just don't want to go down that journey, right? Like, and they're both amazing companies, by the way. But I'm just talking about ripping the guts out of your organization to put something else in. That's a big endeavor, and it's a big commitment. So anything I could layer on, try, see results, then scale, I would be much more willing to move at pace, take some risks, because I think, that commitment around integration. And then if it doesn't work, how do you pull it back out? Like, I just can't stop the business to do
totally.
So I think it's got to be seamless in terms of integration. And I think a lot of AI sort of things are more so than others. ROI has got to be very, very clear. And I think when we come to pricing, I agree with you. I would love to buy things based on results. So I'm happy to pay a lot more if we agree that it outperforms what I think it will do. As someone who's selling, I get asked that all the time. We're just not at a stage of growth where I can fund that. I hope over time we will do results-based pricing, because I'd love to share that upside, and I'd be a buyer of that risk on my current product all day long. We just don't have enough resources to do that.
It's a little challenging when you're super early. Yeah, totally. Yes. I totally get that. Omar and Rohan, I'm curious, one of the things that he had mentioned, that Ben had mentioned, was the idea of like, how do you actually integration, right? So there's like, well, how easy is this to implement? How easy is this to actually truly understand whether or not it can drive value? And given that both your products are they're really easy to use, but there's an element there of like, as a buyer, I'm kind of like, okay, so is this just smoke and mirrors? Is this just a rules engine in the back end? Like, how do I know that this isn't going to completely disrupt my organization as if I'm thinking about leveraging technology to help me solve some of my problems?
So here's the thing. Two things for that. One, really, the integration is very easy today. I mean, the amount of effort you need today to start a new company is probably 10x less than what it was a year ago, including integration. There's so much technology that enables you that. And by the way, and I think it's a fair question. I've met a lot of CROs and go-to-market leaders that are concerned of getting something new they don't want to jeopardize what they have right now. But here's the thing, I'm old enough to remember the first time the first browser was up, or the first iPhone was up. And I'm telling you, the AI is probably 10x more impactful than those kinds of technologies. And companies that are not going to move fast are simply going to left behind. I see the speed of so many companies starting, and whether you're AI first or not, I actually don't think about AI as a technology. I actually think about AI as an experience enabler. And I think companies that are not going to move at that pace are going to fail. Luckily, the technology does enable us to move really quickly. I'm sure Ron did amazing things with Nooks, and AI actually, brings them even much, much more further. It's much easier to do. But again, another risk, because competition is going to be difficult as well.
Yeah. Rohan, I feel like your solution does tend to land in an area where there's potential replacement of Ben's comments of like, oof, like how much disruption might this actually create from a usability perspective? How do you think about that when you're talking to customers? Because that's a real question for all of us as buyers. We're like, okay, disruption is a thing, right? It's a real thing. I understand the promise and the potential, but I'm also really worried about risk and disruption.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the reasons Nix has been successful to date and how we've been able to grow so fast is time to value. So like, we are able to get teams up and running on Nux within days. And like, usually it's just like a 1 hour setup call. And so that means that you can get set up quickly, and then you can also see results quickly. So people start seeing results with Nux within days, because we're accelerating those manual tasks that reps are doing today, and we're making them 5x faster. And so essentially you get 5x the amount of output within just a couple of days of using Nux. And to the other pieces, like, I think people are understandably skeptical of like AI, and there's a lot of like snake oil that like is being sold. And so one of the things that we've always led with is like, we're completely free to try. We're very easy to set up. And because of that, like, I think, it's a much different sell now that you're saying, hey, instead of saying, hey, we could increase your reps productivity, to now like, hey, we did that. And like, look at this data over the last like 2 weeks where each rep was booking 3 times as many meetings as they were the prior month earlier. And so I think that's like, I honestly feel like most companies are going to have to try to figure out a motion, especially AI companies, that can show early results, because buyers are going to be skeptical of like, frankly, all the claims that are being made. Everyone claims to like use AI to automate this task or automate that task, and not all of them work. And so it's been a very successful motion for us. Like, once we get people to trial, we close at like 60 to 70%. And so but like it's hard to do right. There's a lot of like, you have to nail the change management, you have to nail the reps workflow changes. We schedule sessions, like we have a whole process built out to do it. And it's like a very key part of our go-to-market motion. And like, I think someone was talking about consultative sales. I think that's like a really big piece of sales moving forward, is that trial process is going to be a big part of buying decisions.
Yeah. So you bring up something, and Ben brought this up as well, Marilee, that I'm really curious your thoughts about, which is all about ROI. Because look, everybody says, I want to see the ROI. I don't know if you're like me, I don't believe most of it. Right. Mm-hmm. I'm like, and truthfully, yeah. So Julia just posted some data points here. 49% of orgs expect ROI on AI within 1 to 3 years. My belief, I want ROI in 90 days. Like I gotta make a decision real fast if this isn't working, because I'm placing a bet on it, and if it's not working, let's get it out. Let's go back and let's kind of like get back to the least disruptive path here. So I'm curious your thoughts on, like, as a buyer, when you're thinking about ROI on technology, and how much do you believe the AI hype, especially given it's the kind of like the lower levels of adoption, I guess, thus far. I'm just wondering your thoughts on that.
I think the ROI conversation is interesting because it's both subjective and objective, right? So you've got a sales team who is selling you the tool. They will tell you, oh yeah, you can get X% more of this, less of that. And those all directionally make a lot of sense. But I think, every organization is different. Mileage varies. And this is why I think as a seller, you have to get really, really in tune with the intricacies of your buyer's actual business and really what makes them tick. And I just don't see people do enough discovery to really get into the details of what matters. And so, a one size fits all approach around, we see X percentage of this gain, is great as a teaser to get your foot in the door. But you almost have to pull back from that as a seller and say, hey, you know what, this is great for all these other companies that we've done this for, but we really want to understand your business and what would make this a win for you. And it's some of the objective, but it's also the subjective. Like, if you're selling a tool to my sales team to make them more productive, it matters a lot what the sales leaders think, the CS leaders, all of the leadership, as well as the individuals using the tool every day. And if they are telling me, if you turn this off, it is going to greatly impact my ability to be productive, or it's going to mean I'm not closing as fast, or I'm not retaining our customers like we should, then I'm going to give it a big look, and I will be very serious about it. But the times that I've gone around and I've said, hey, what do you think about this tool? And people have said, I don't know, it's okay. We haven't really, done much with it. I guess it's fine. It's just, we don't have time. We don't have time for it. We don't have the time or money for it. So it really does matter, both, on the objective piece, but also more so on what people have to say about it internally.
Yeah. I love that. So unfortunately, it's one of the, I was talking to a company this morning, an early stage company, and one of the gaps that they were having is like, okay, getting reps on board. The managers love it. Getting the reps on board is like a total slog. So I'm like, you got to figure out a faster way to wow for the reps, so that they will, to your point, take that up to leadership and be like, okay, this is actually, it's changing the way in which I'm able to do my job, and it's having a meaningful impact. That's the stuff you're going to pay attention to. I'm curious, as we think, look, this year has been all about hyper focused on efficiency and profitability, right? We came out of some really rough times where it was like, okay, we got to make some cuts. We're spending too much. Cash was harder to get for a lot of us. And so it begs the question, though, if we think about 2025, first of all, do y'all think that we're going to continue to focus on, on profitability and efficiency? And if so, what tools or areas of technology likely need to be replaced altogether or removed in 2025? Because I think technology is going to play a big role, continue to play a big role in go to market for next year. But I don't think we're not in this place where we're just going to say yes to everything and absolutely absorb everything. We need to be smart about the decisions that we make in terms of what we replace or what we remove altogether, because we got to be smart about our efficiency and profitability. But there's a little twist.
I'm happy to jump in.
Please.
Yeah, no, I think you can see from markets and everything else, I think growth is going to be a priority, but it's not going to be growth at all costs again, like it was when there was easy money. I think it's going to be thinking about strategies you can implement that aren't linear, but can scale without incremental costs. So for example, I think growth is going to be 20%, therefore I need to grow the pipeline, therefore I'm going to hire 10 BDRs. I mean, that's a very linear approach, right? And I think no one can afford that. So I think you're going to have to replace some of those BDRs with technology that can help you scale by just buying, whether it's a license. I know you're pushing back on licenses, but whether it's a license or something else, that says we can grow 20% if we implement this, and I don't need to hire 10 BDRs. And I think technology is moving so quickly, particularly around AI, that the entry-level jobs and the most basic human tasks can be replaced. The good news is if you can get the tech right, your pipeline's better, it's more qualified, you're going to need more closers. And that's great. You're going to need more AEs who are closing at higher rates, more velocity, all those things, and they're going to be much happier. But I think your entry-level jobs are going to migrate up, but they're not going to be, here's your list of people who called in overnight or left their emails, go call them back and just ask these 5 questions and hand them off. I just don't think that's necessary anymore.
Of course, there's such a dichotomy, right? Because AI in this last year hasn't really fully proven that you can use it to completely replace roles and functions, or fully proven that it's going to generate, the kind of pipeline that we need in order to hit these revenue targets. So it's a little bit of a catch-22, right? Because it's like we need to be more efficient. So let's try and use technology, but technology hasn't fully approved that it's actually going to drive the efficiency, unless I'm using Nooks, of course. And then so therefore, what do I what do I do? Do I keep testing tech? Do I add bodies and tech? I don't know. It's an interesting. I'm just curious how y'all are thinking about this, because I don't think there's an easy answer.
But I do think tech has moved. Sorry, I'll just finish on this. I do think tech has moved in the ability to catch. So I think what Nooks is doing, if I understood correctly, is generating new pipeline. So what happens when that pipeline comes to your website? What we're doing at OneMind, for example, is we have, photo reel, face voice brains, your best AI rep, your best sales rep sitting on the website 24/7, able to pick up all that traffic, have a real life conversation. It's not a chat bot. All right, no typing involved. It's like you and I having a conversation now. You would have a conversation with the AI, and they could qualify you. So the example I'll give is when I was at WeWork, we spent all these marketing dollars. 500,000 people hit our website a month, right? 2% left their information. Sounds great.
Yeah.
10,000 leads, fucking killing it. What about the 490,000 people who didn't? Who just left?
Yeah,
we didn't know why. We know where they spent time, but no one was there and I could never serve up enough salespeople, physical salespeople, to answer to be there. The AI does that. I think your conversion rate is through the roof. They qualify. Now your pipeline is way better. Now your reps are closing. So I think we're there.
I mean, assuming you're getting enough people to your website and you're getting enough inbound, I totally agree. I mean, in fact, Omer and I had this conversation about, it's like, all right, well, you got to be in a business where you can get enough exposure where enough people are going to want to come to your website so you can 100%. Start that level of engagement, right? So little tiny startup, maybe you don't get it. Your gain site makes a ton of sense. You got to have that level, because now I can get rid of the whole step function of folks in terms of what they were doing, given the velocity of people going to the website.
Yeah, for what it's worth, I do think inbound, capturing inbound demand is one of the better use cases.
I agree. I totally agree.
It is a little bit more straightforward, right? I mean, if someone comes to your website and you want to send an email saying, hey, come back, like that's a pretty straightforward email.
Yep. I mean, similarly, Rohan, warm outbound is becoming, I mean, it is also another, I would say, low hanging fruit use case. Although I think people are starting to kind of see the forest to the trees and realize like warm outbound, how much of that is like an AI technology writing on your behalf, and does it really feel real and personalized, et cetera. But I also think there's another one. What other use cases, if you think about go to market in 2025 across the board, and not just sales, but sales, marketing, and CS, what other use cases are kind of low hanging fruit where there's potential to actually use technology to maintain your focus on efficiency and profitability?
Yeah,
I think Manisha might say something about SEs.
Yeah, totally. No, as Omer and Ben were also saying that there are so many leads coming in, and your 98% of your leads are running away. But also, marketing team has been so active in spreading information about the product that earlier the kind of technical expertise salespeople used to have was maybe level 1 and level 2. But now level 1, level 2 job is already done by emails, case studies, webinars. There's so much out there about any product that salespeople now need to dig deep into level 3 conversations directly. Even on the first call, they need to dig into level 3 conversations. Now, if you're having deep conversations, you have to really understand the technical details of your product. You really have to be amazing at consultative selling from day one, from the first discovery call. Even to ask the right questions on discovery call is so crucial, because your platform is solving 100 pain points. What are the 3 pain points this customer might have? Let's say you're selling to Nike. What were the discovery questions you had asked to Adidas? Those kind of details, surfacing these objections, these questions, giving them access to easy information, even from sales enablement tools where there are 1,000 decks lying somewhere, and you don't know how to find that one slide amongst those 1,000 decks, is going to be really important, because now it's all about going deep into the technical details, into product details, platform understanding, and being consultative from day one.
Man, there's so many assumptions there, though, right? Because even if you give me all the technical chops, technical insight at my fingertips as I'm talking to Nike or Adidas, I need to understand it, right? And I think it's an interesting element. Like, how do you? I mean, I can give you all the information and you can regurgitate it just like we do on our school tests, which is terrible. But like, I want to know that you truly understand it. Marilee, I'm curious, and from your perspective, especially in the world of customer success, so critically important, and everybody always talks about like the customers are the most important element to our entire business. Where does technology play? Where are some of the low hanging fruit use cases, especially on the customer success side? Because I feel like there's a ton we could gain on that side of the business.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, when you just think about a CSP, a customer success platform, it relies a ton on manual data entry for a CSM to go in, and whether it's Gainsight or Tatango or any other CSP, to go in and actually manually input. I had this meeting with the customer, it was a green meeting or it was yellow or red, and it really is very, very objective, or very subjective rather, for the CSM to input that information. It just requires a lot of daily entry, which nobody loves. Nobody loves to update their CSP. Nobody's ever loved updating their Salesforce or HubSpot either. So where I see the low-hanging fruit and what we're already doing at Gainsight, which is super exciting, is around this acquisition we made back in July of Staircase AI, that basically ingests all of the different interactions between a vendor or a partner and their end customer. So it's Zoom transcripts, it's Slacks, it's emails, all of that, support tickets, and takes it and is able to assign a sentiment score, and also to be able to really be able to tell where the customer sits in terms of their overall sentiment for your organization is hugely helpful. I know for me, as I started at Gainsight about 2 months ago, me coming up to speed on our different customers and where they are in terms of their renewals process, or just overall interactions with us over the past time period, 60, 90 days, was super, super helpful for me to be able to see that really quickly. So I think about we have our legacy customer success platform that is great for actionability for CSMs to go in and actually run a workflow process. But the staircase piece is really tuned in for executives who are looking for, a bird's eye view on their overall customers as well as the team effort, that's needed in order to support a customer.
I love that. I wish, can I just make some suggestions here for Gainsight? This is for you, Nick, if you're paying attention. Why isn't somebody just building the easiest white space analysis tool on the planet and say, go talk to them about these 3 products? Because you know what? They've like all the Zoom conversations, the partnership conversations, you can see all product usage and everything, but like, oh yeah, they're still there. I mean, Gainsight, y'all sell a lot of products. When I was at Salesforce, it's like we sold so many products, I wouldn't know which ones they're not actually, which ones are the best fit, right?
Yeah.
Who's the best fit to go? What's that best fit product that I should go talk to them about?
So something.
Omar, sorry, go ahead.
We've all been using something better than the spreadsheet or Google Sheet we've all been using.
Right. It's so true.
But here's the thing, Doug, and I want to tie this and what Marilyn said into go-to-market as well. Remember a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, when ChatGPT was first released? I remember the first time I actually played with it, I was blown away. I was amazed. That is an amazing experience. What Marilyn described right now is what Gainsight is actually doing in the product to create that level of experience. My question is, what are we doing in a go-to-market processes? If you ever bought a Tesla, you know how easy it is to buy a Tesla. You just click on a button, you buy this. You don't need to go to a dealership, I think that we have an opportunity to think about what we do in our go-to-market to try and recreate that kind of experience for our buyers. Now, it is going to be difficult because Gainsight go-to-market motion could be different than Nox. They might be selling, low touch, high touch. It is difficult. But at the end of the day, there's a buyer there. And I can guarantee to you that if the buyer in 1 or 2 years is going to have a choice between selecting a company that was focused more on making their sales team efficient versus selecting a company that made their entire go-to-market engagement amazing, because that's what it's going to do. These will be the company. So I think what we need to think about AI is not necessarily about a tool here or a tool there or a technology, but your product team, go and ask your product team. They understand that. They understand that AI adds a layer of experience. We can actually add that layer of wow to our buyers as well. And I think if we'll provide an amazing buying experience, that's going to be a win-win for us and for them as well. That's what really excites me in AI.
Well, and it kind of goes back to one of the original things I said before, which is this how do we ensure that the entire go-to-market team has much more context and insight as to every interaction that's happening with a buyer, right? So they first go to their website, or someone does some outreach, and then as a result of that outreach, I go to the website, or maybe then I'm on a call with an AE, and Manisha, they're using your platform to make sure they have all the right technical information and insight. Like, I want all of that information easily shared and identified within my CRM. It kind of begs the question of like, are we going to have, is the old school, and this is a challenge for Salesforce and HubSpot, but the old school system of record CRM going to go away? Because to be totally honest, to be frank with you, I, as a ex-Salesforcer, I love Salesforce, the company, but the product is such a pain in the butt. It's so manual, and it just boggles my mind how manual it is right now, given all this technology. I go to ChatGPT, I go to Claude, I go Gemini, I pull all this information, and I'm like, I put it in a spreadsheet. And I gotta load it into my CSV loader and load it into Salesforce. And like, here we're talking about all this great technology, but I still think fundamentally in 2025, if we haven't solved for these systems of records, not shifting to maybe a system of engagement, Omar, to your point, like it's a system of engagement where we're constantly wowing our customers because they have everything that I need them to have, and I don't have to answer the same question 18 times, then we might be onto something. I don't know. Just a thought.
I think it's going to be this entire transition process, though, human behavior shifted in 1 month with ChatGPT. I don't think we can expect this kind of behavior change in GTM processes. And this just happens once in a decade, right? It can't keep on happening every day. I think we'll go through this transitioning process of how sales is done, how customer success is done. So today, let's say we help companies fill RFPs and security questionnaires in few minutes instead of spending hours on it. Now, what we see is after 2 years, there are there are not going to be any security questionnaires or RFPs, right? There will be buyer bot, there will be seller bot. They will be talking to each other around all the security related, product related information, and humans will only be involved maybe for negotiations, but mainly for relationship building, because ultimately it's people on both the side, right? And then probably signing the contract, which of course the DocuSign will do it automatically. So I think it's going to take time for us to go through this process. It will be very, very optimistic to say that we are going to see that change in 2025.
I mean, who knows what's going to happen?
You never know. Yeah.
Where I'm curious, where are the risks in 2025? What are the biggest risks to go to market in 2025? One could be, okay, we're going to overinvest in AI and it's actually not going to deliver on the promise. Another could be we slow down our hiring process because we think we've got so much more efficiency, and automation. I'm just curious, like where do you see the big risks where you're like, all right, we can't take our eye off on maybe when it on the people side, because people really are what make the companies matter. Ooh, there's a twist. I'm not just talking.
I'll give my point of view, and I think there are two. One, I think a major risk is competition. Each one of us is gonna have a lot of competition, different.
Yeah.
A lot of competition, and how do we rise above the noise? And I think the second one is, as Ron said, is how do we create a pipeline? Because it's much easier for everybody else right now to use all the ammunition that only big companies or successful companies were able to use before. So I think that combination of a lot of competition and so much noise and garbage out there, that's the main risk that we have.
Interesting. So I'm curious about that. Here's a little twist, because it was a question that Julia threw out, which is, well, do you think the phone is going to come back? Because it's so hard to decipher between what you read and all the noise that you're getting from email and LinkedIn messages. Are we going to start having, back to Manisha's kind of point, which is like, are we going to go back old school? And I want face-to-face meetings with people I'm buying from.
I think so. Last week I hosted an offsite with my team, and our SDR leader talked about how, like, what is helping the SDR team stand out now is actually taking it back to the old school with the good old-fashioned phone call. People are surprised when they've used that as a tool. And I think it's going to be a combination of it all, like it takes how many touch points to reach someone, 10 plus. And I think
10 plus
has to be across all those different, those different mediums. So I'm all for it. So watch your phones, everybody.
That's true. It's a good pattern interrupt too.
Being at Nooks, we have a lot of data on this, and I think over the last year, average pipeline source contribution from the phone went up on our customer base 50 to 70%, which is just seeing an increase in using it, just because you need a human behind on the phone. Just illegal to fully automate that portion, and so what you're seeing is it's one of those channels that just is not as clogged up and crowded as some of the other channels, where the email, to Omar was saying, the cost of sending an email now, the personalized email, has just slowly gone to zero. And so it's going to be a real challenge to stand out in the inbox. So yeah.
So Ben, this is an interesting question. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there, Rohan. Interesting question for you is, what about deepfakes? So if we're going to go back to the phone, if we want to have a personal interaction, how is that I don't know if I want to talk to this technology, or if I actually want to talk to you. And so you being in that, in fact, that one mind is actually in the crosshairs of that comment. I'm super curious of your thoughts on, especially on deepfakes, because I think if you have a couple bad experiences, you're gun shy. Yeah. Right. So now I want to meet someone face to face, especially if it's a big decision.
But I think it's all about choice, right? And it's all about giving meeting the customer where they are, when they're ready to buy, and then letting them choose how they want to be served. So for example, when you go to a website, your expectation is not that you're going to speak to someone. You're on the website to find information. Now, old school website was Google search, click a lot of links, hamburger menus, drop downs, whatever. I think what Perplexity has done is reshaped what your expectations are when you do a search. Get the answers. And I think if you spent any time with what we call her Mindy, the person on our website, the AI on our website, you just get to the answers, right? You don't have to click around. You don't have to fumble around. Now, if you wanted to, you could pick up the phone and someone will call you. If you wanted to, you could probably find a chatbot on most websites. I think when you give customers or prospective clients the choice to say, well, do you want all the answers right now speaking to an AI in a very natural conversation? I think you're going to find most people will say yes, because I want to get quickly. I haven't done my makeup. I just came out of the shower. I'm in my underwear. The kids are screaming. The dog's running around. Like, no problem. The AI doesn't give a shit. And by the way, I'm going to pause you because Amazon's at the door. I'm here as long as you want. Take whatever time you need. And if you need to make a bathroom break on the way back to speak to me, don't worry. I'm here. And I think that's a really good buying experience. Now, when you're ready to move on, I'm going to call you, someone's going to call you, we're going to have lunch, we're going to go play golf, whatever that motion is. I'm not saying eliminate it, but I'm saying, man, of those 500,000 visitors to my website, I think there's room to engage a lot more of them in a thoughtful way.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I don't think we're going to ever get away from the fact that people buy from people that they like and trust.
And we love
so
that.
if you can continue to use technology, all of your technology basically is to help build that credibility, build that trust, to build that relationship to the point of where a person can actually get involved and have a real conversation. And like in Manisha's case, that conversation, they're going to be more technically inept. In Omar's case, they're going to be further along, and I'm going to know actually that this person really does want to talk to me. Like this is like you're able to filter out all of the noise. And I think, Ben, in your case, I get to have a pseudo conversation with someone and kind of have some fun with it before I'm ready to actually have a real conversation. And then of course, once I become a customer, Marilee is just going to make me feel all warm and happy. It's interesting how Julie.
A really funny anecdote. It's incredible when I'm looking through the transcripts how honest and direct people are with the AI. If you and I are on a conversation and you're like, so do we, can we move forward? I don't feel badly saying no to you because we've engaged. You're a nice guy. Sure, let me take it away. Why don't we follow up in a month? What I'm really saying is there's no chance I'm buying for you. You go away and say, I'm forecasting this. This is a December close. I feel really good. The AI is, this sucks. You're ugly. I'm not buying from you. I'm never doing they are so direct. It's unreal. And so you know what you're getting in that case. I'll tell you, there's no hurt feelings either.
Hey, Ben, you should tell Amanda, y'all need to post the, not what people are actually saying, but take a book out of Gong's playbook and be like, hey, here's the things that people are more comfortable saying to an AI person versus a real person. Have some fun with that. Amanda, I know you're listening. Julia, are we at time? I just have a feeling you're just gonna pull the rug out from underneath all of us. So I want to be mindful of that.
Thank you so much, Doug. Such an amazing panel. Thank you, everyone. The best comment about the panel: this is effing amazing. So CXOs, Doug, we heard all of the predictions from all of our panelists, but when it comes to you, give us a wild card prediction for next year.
Oh man. The wild card prediction for next year is cash is going to be way more readily available, and so everyone's going to start having fun again. That's my prediction for next year. Because I tell you what, this last year was a little brutal.
Are you thinking interest rates are going to go lower? I just feel like I don't know if it's necessarily interest rates. I think it's a combination of that plus the fact that people are going to feel more comfortable getting rid of their cash or making investments and taking some risks. I think people were really, 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 really risk averse the last 12, 18 months, and people are going to now start taking more risks. And I think it's just going to open the doors for more possibilities.